Good evening. Once again, we're asking for your help with investigations into crimes committed around the country within the last few months. Being among the most serious cases on the books, they're the rarest, but they're also the ones where there's the greatest urgency in solving them.
The programme's live, of course, and if all goes well, some of the detectives gathered here will start to solve their cases in the next 3/4 of an hour.
Our first case tonight is a 33-year-old man from Hounslow in Middlesex who was found murdered 2 months ago. On the night he died, Wednesday the 22nd of August, Paul Stevens did much as he did most evenings. He dropped into a couple of local pubs and chatted to acquaintances and some fellow customers. Some of the people who saw Paul that night have taken part in our film in the hope of finding his killer. His only real friend was Sylvie Robinson, who was a kind of mother figure to him.
I met Paul in the local pub in Feltham 2 weeks after me arriving from Bournemouth. A very nice gentleman to meet. Knew my son, he said. Just got talking about everything in general, saying that he was gay, and I got on very well with him. He had nowhere to stay, as far as I was concerned, so I said he could come round and visit me if he was really stuck. And from then on, I got to know Paul quite well. He seemed as though no one seemed to get on well with him. A very lonely man, but I always got on all right.
Paul, it's 10:30. Come on, time to get up. Shape up.
Yeah.
Come on. You hear me? Are you awake?
I'm awake. I gotta sleep with you. All that
Come on,
noise.
Come on, shape up.
I'm awake. I don't know, I feel rough, Sylv.
You shouldn't have stayed out, should you? I'm gonna put the kettle on, make some tea.
Stop shouting.
Well, come on then.
I'll make the tea if you give us a minute, all right?
Come on then.
Well, give us a minute. Just a minute.
Paul treated me more or less like a mother, more than anything else.
Tea's up, Sylv.
He was a gentleman in a gentlemanly manner.
I'll grab my tea and then I'm gonna go straight out.
He treated me well, always used to take me out and buy things for me and drinks and just take me everywhere he wanted to go.
I'm going for this job.
Oh, yes.
I told you about it.
Oh, yeah. Where's it to?
Well, I don't know where it is yet. He hasn't said. It's bar work.
Oh, it is barman.
Being a barman again.
Think you'd be all right with this job, then?
Yeah, if it works out.
Because you've been waiting long enough, haven't you?
Yeah, I know.
I think you'd be all right, though. Get a start somewhere.
20p left, thank you very much indeed. Yes, sir, what can I do?
Pint of Chiswick, please.
Pint of Chiswick, yes, sir.
Paul did enjoy bar work because he was meeting people all the time, and it was good for Paul. He never really slacked on his job at all.
Yeah, lazing about the weekends, is that it?
He really had no family to care about him, so he used to just stay here, thinking he was more
Come in, darling.
at home here than in his own brother's place.
Come on, then. Come on. There we go. Come on. Hey, my friend, don't you? My little friend.
Never seemed to be able to mix with people very well, and he looked to me as though he was just a lonely person. On the Wednesday morning, Paul left the flat at 10:30 to go and see somebody about getting a job. He said he would see me later. A friend of mine from Bournemouth arrived, Michael Reed. We went to the Chariot and Paul was in the Chariot in Hounslow.
Mike! Yeah, I'm all right.
How's the job doing?
Well, he hasn't turned up yet, has he?
Really? Still waiting?
Oh, dear. He should. He said he was going to meet me here, but he hasn't been there.
No? No. Can I help you then? Yes, do you want a drink, Sylvia?
Yes, please. 10 extra, please.
Pint of half, 10 extra, please. Sure. You?
Not going to buy me one, then?
Oh, yeah, Paul, now you got a pint there. Yeah.
Yeah.
No later.
How's it going then with the job then?
Ah, someone will turn up. I mean, if this doesn't happen, I mean, someone else will, you know. You know me, I'll work. Anyway, look, I've got to get going, because I don't want to miss him, just in case he does turn up. Right, I'll see you around,
Yeah,
Mike.
okay, Paul, all the best, mate.
Can you leave the door and the latch for me, love?
It's not like you, Paul.
I thought it was very strange that Paul should ask me to leave the door, because he always used to knock, no matter what hours of the night or early hours of the morning. I would still let him in anyway.
I came into the bar, it's about 6:45 as usual, to start work. Paul was waiting at the bar to be served with a pint of Carlsberg. I served him his drink, had a quick hello, how are you with him. He seemed fine, quite happy. I didn't hold a full conversation with him. It was later on the same evening that I realised he'd been joined by 3 gentlemen. In particular, he was holding a conversation with one of these 3. As the evening went on, this particular gentleman bought him drinks once or twice. He seemed to be having a good conversation with him, getting on with him quite well. That was about it. I don't know whether they left together, but they had left the pub before the last spell had gone.
It's like anything else, you know, you do lots of things, you drink, you smoke, you know.
It was the night of my 18th birthday, and I just got some presents from my friend, and I wanted to go and show John downstairs in the lower bar. And we were interrupted by Paul, who was sitting on a stool next to us. And then we were interrupted again by someone he introduced as his brother. And after that I felt a bit uncomfortable and said that I'd go and speak to my other friends and that I'd probably see him later.
Yeah, well, I do. I'll keep you few friends on your game.
Thanks a lot.
I'll keep you all night, do I? Yeah, see you around.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, hey, Paul, can I help you, mate?
2 pints of lager, please.
John the barman is the last person known to have seen Paul Stevens alive. He served him the 2 pints at about 10 o'clock, which he remembers particularly because Paul normally drank half pints. John didn't see who the second pint was for. No one knows exactly what Paul did after that, or whether he was alone. It is known that he somehow got to Southall 3 miles away. He may have taken a bus there, he may have walked. He may have taken a cab, or been given a lift by someone. Anyone who saw Paul on the night of Wednesday the 22nd of August, or in the small hours of Thursday the 23rd, could perhaps provide the vital clue to leading police to find whoever killed him.
I left my house around about 5:30, and I was already late for work. So I thought to myself, instead of stopping and getting a newspaper like I normally do, I'll take the canal route to get to work early. So as I was coming through the canal, I was cycling like I normally would. I come up to where a bridge was, and I see what looked like a great big patch of red blotches. I thought nothing of it first, but then I got off my bike and I had a look. And when I had a look, it looked like blood. So then when I looked a bit further, I found some more. Then I looked into the water and I found what appeared to be a body. So from that point, I didn't know what to do, to be quite honest. I just took another glance. I got back on my bike and I rode off down the road. I just thought to myself, you know, it couldn't happen to me. You know, I couldn't find something like that. It was dreadful.
Well, the young man then went to the police and reported what he'd seen. DCI Jim Bland is in charge of the inquiry. So Paul Stevens was a man with many acquaintances, but few friends, if any.
Yes, that's right, sir. He's been described, I mean, the way the actor portrayed him there was excellent. He's been described as being very effeminate in his manners and speech, and that's the way I think he came across there.
Right, now let's look first at the men we know Paul met that evening. First of all, did he eventually meet up with a man who he thought was going to offer him a job?
He did meet that man, but that man actually had merely made that offer to him to wind him up. He had no intention of giving him a job at all and told him that night that there was no job at all.
Right. Now, secondly, the descriptions we have of the 2 men he met. First of all, there was the man in the group of 3 that he was chatting to in the Tankerville pub.
That's right. He's the one that we see buying the drinks over the counter. He's a bit older than Paul. He's 38 to 40. He's about 5'9". He's white, as you can see. He's a medium build, And his hair, although it doesn't come across there very well, is described as being short, receding and dark. He's got very piercing blue hazel eyes, and he was unshaven, as you can see there.
Right. And secondly, we have a video fit of the man he met later on in the evening, the man in the Chariot pub, who he introduced to somebody as his brother.
Yes, that's not an unusual trait in Paul. He used to introduce all sorts of people as his brother. He's younger than Paul, 19 to 21. He's about 6 foot tall, slim build, fair blonde hair, as shown there, swept back. He's got the white T-shirt, jeans and black Adidas trainers on.
Could that have been the man he bought the pint for? It was only about an hour later, if that.
That's right. There's a possibility that we can't discount, but we haven't been able to find this person.
And your main mystery, of course, is where Paul went after 10 o'clock, after he'd left the Chariot that night.
Yes, our missing 8 hours. From the time he left, 10 o'clock or thereabouts, until he was found at 6, we have no idea where he went, who he was with, or what he was doing. And we appeal to anyone who saw him then to come forward and let us know.
That was Wednesday the 22nd of August, or the small hours of Thursday the 23rd of August. Now, Paul rarely went to the Southall area, as far as we know. He lived 3 miles away from there, but there was a sighting of him apparently near the spot where his body was found about 3 weeks beforehand.
Yes, during the course of our inquiry we found one witness who says he saw Paul sat in the garden of a pub down by the canal about 3 weeks before his body was found, and we'd like to know if anybody else saw Paul in or around Southall prior to his death.
When his body was found, there was £20 in his pocket, so robbery wasn't the motive. Do you have any indications what his motive might be?
Well, we know that Paul had sexual contact with a man or men the night before he died. We obviously would like to speak to anyone who did have any form of sexual contact with Paul, and I would ask for them to come forward. I can appreciate that gay people will not be happy about contacting the police and admitting to any sort of contact with Paul. But I can give you a categoric reassurance now that we have no interest other than to solve this murder. We don't intend to prosecute people for any offences we discover along the way. Our sole interest is in solving the murder.
Mr. Bland, thank you very much indeed. If you can offer any information on this, please ring. We incidentally also have a voluntary worker here acting on behalf of the gay community. There are BBC researchers here too who you can ask to speak to if you prefer. Here's the number direct to the studio, 081 811 8181, or you can ring Jim Bland's colleagues at the incident room. The number there is 071 937 0299. That's 071 937 0299.
Viewers who rang Crimewatch last month have changed the course of several of the inquiries. One man was arrested within hours. He'd seen himself on photo call and he was waiting when police came knocking at his door. He's since been charged with conspiracy to defraud. 5 days later, 2 other men were arrested in different parts of the country, but both as a direct result of calls here to Crimewatch. Both are being questioned in connection with the theft of travellers' cheques. There was a crucial call from a witness police have been seeking at Glastonbury Festival, and they hope that what he's told them may solve the violent rape that took place there. Detectives are now checking out a suspect.
On our reconstructions last month, there were well over 300 calls on the murder of Anne Heron, who'd been sunbathing in her garden where she lived not far from Darlington. But what's most interested the police are 4 letters which were sent to them following the programme, and we can't say anything further on that just for the moment. More than 200 people offered help on the Securicor raid at Tankerton in Kent, most of them suggesting names they thought would match our video fits. Police are still checking those out. And there were also names suggested for the man who attacked Jo Chandler as she was hiking near Catterick Racecourse. Jo is just beginning now to regain her speech, but she's still seriously ill.
We'll have more progress reports later in the programme, but now to Incident Desk. Here are Superintendent David Hatcher and Detective Constable Jackie Hames.
First, we appeal for anyone who may have witnessed a murder after a carnival in Leeds. This is the August Bank Holiday Carnival and it's in full swing. The parade ended early in the evening, but as usual turned into a street party going on all night. At 1:20 a.m, 2 quite separate shootings occurred within yards of each other and 2 people were killed. There were still hundreds of people dancing in the streets at the time. A man has been arrested for the first shooting, but we want to focus your attention on the second incident, when 29-year-old Sedley Sullivan was shot dead. He'd arrived up from Birmingham and had been at the carnival most of the day. He was standing here against this container when he was shot at close range. There was no apparent motive. The gunman got into a blue Vauxhall Astra parked in Grange Crescent. Witnesses thought they saw other people in the car as it sped off up Hamilton Place. They tried to stop the car by throwing bottles at it, which may have broken the rear window. They described the man as being in his 20s, 5'8" to 5'11" tall, with a muscular build and gingery hair. We think he may have come from Manchester. Remember, the street party was still going on and there were plenty of people about, so you may well have seen him. If you did, please ring us.
Next, we need your help to identify two men who hijacked a delivery van outside Hexham in Northumbria, stole the load and then beat up the driver. About 8:30 on the morning of Thursday the 27th of September, the driver left his depot in Sunderland to make a delivery in Hexham. As he travelled along the A69 Horsley bypass, two vehicles, a dark blue transit van and a light grey or silver Ford Granada with a female passenger, made the van pull into a lay-by. Two men from the transit commandeered the vehicle and bundled the driver into the passenger well. They then drove his van 3 miles to PP Lane. Here the men transferred the goods, microwave ovens and cigarettes, into the transit, which was driven by a third person. The delivery driver was handcuffed and locked in his van. When he tried to resist, he was repeatedly punched in the face. However, he was able to compile two very good impressions of the robbers. One was described as in his early 40s, about 5'8", with greying brown hair. He had a distinctive tattoo on the back of one of his hands and wrist. It looked self-inflicted and is known as a borstal glove. The other man was younger, in his late 20s, stocky with brown hair. If you recognise either of these men or have any information about the robbery, please do call.
My Watford colleagues need your help to find the driver who killed 17-year-old Kevin Sargent. It happened 7 months ago and someone must have had a heavy conscience ever since then, April the 5th. On that day, Kenny was crossing the busy St Albans Road in Watford. It was about 9:45 p.m. Kenny was hit by a white Ford Escort XR3i. It threw him into the air, but he landed on the bonnet and managed to hold on. The driver swerved several times, trying to fling him from the car, and 200 yards down the road, turned right at the Midland Bank into Regent Street and stopped. The driver got out and pulled Kenny off, dragging him into the gutter. He was to die from his injuries 10 weeks later. The car was abandoned in Blackley Close, about a mile away. It had been stolen sometime between 3:30 in the afternoon and 9:45, the time of the accident. That's on the 5th of April. Did you see who took the car from the car park in Hulsey Place, behind the Artichoke pub? Someone must know who did this. Since Kenny's death, his families have distributed these posters around the area in the hope that witnesses will come forward. Perhaps they'll feel brave enough to ring us here tonight.
And finally, perhaps you witnessed a hijacking in Gutter Lane in the City of London on Monday the 24th of September, in which £80,000 worth of gold chains were stolen. Shortly after 3:15 p.m, Sam Samuels picked up his collection of gold chains from Gutter Lane and loaded them into the boot of his black Mercedes saloon. As he got into the driver's seat, a group of men walked past. If you recognise yourself here, can you recall a man loitering on the pavement near the Mercedes? Seconds later, that man climbed into the passenger seat and at gunpoint ordered Mr Samuels to drive to a car park at Cambridge Circus in London's West End. He was handcuffed and tied up while the man escaped with the gold. He's described as 25 to 30 years old, 5'11" tall, muscular build, clean-shaven, with collar-length light brown wavy hair. And he looked smart, wearing a blue blazer, grey trousers and a white shirt and tie. This attack was frightening and premeditated. If you can help with this or any of our other incident desk cases tonight, please call us now.
And here's the number, 081 811 8181, 081 811 8181.
Well, detectives here are already answering calls on the Paul Stevens case and on some of those incident desk cases, so I hope we can report on the results of those later. But looking back on the results of from previous programmes, two important trials are pending here in London. In May, first of all, we reconstructed an armed raid in North London in which police were fired at. Two men have been arrested and charged with a variety of offences, including attempted murder, armed robbery, conspiracy and firearms offences. And secondly, a man was charged last month with the murder of 11-year-old Wayne Taylor. We made 3 separate appeals on this, and although Crimewatch didn't lead directly to the arrest, detectives say it was calls here to the programme which kept the incident inquiry going. Without those leads, the incident room might well have been closed down.
In the last few months, you must have been aware of what seems to be a spate of one of the most tragic forms of crime, child abduction. There was a newborn baby taken from the maternity ward of a hospital in London. The whole nation almost seemed to hold its breath until the baby and her abductor were eventually traced. Then, during the summer, there were reports of people posing as social workers trying to gain access to young children. And in August, once again, there was a national drama when a 7-year-old was snatched through the window of her caravan while on holiday beside the seaside. Thankfully, she too was found and a man is now in custody. But police are still desperately concerned about the whereabouts of Simon Jones. They've been searching for Simon, who's aged 4, since he vanished on September the 23rd from Gadebridge Park in Hemel Hempstead in Hertfordshire. This man is suspected of abducting him. If you've seen him anywhere or seen Simon, do please call us. And tonight you may be able to do something concrete to protect other children. If you have youngsters of your own, you'll be intrigued in just a moment to see how children often fail to understand the warnings that parents give them. First, though, police need to know if you can help them trace a couple who have been trying to seize children in the last few weeks. Our reconstruction starts with the briefing of detectives.
Good morning. I think most of you know why we're here this morning, and that is to discuss the recent spate of attempts to abduct children in Hampshire and Dorset. The first incident took place at Fording Bridge at 7:15 p.m. on Friday the 5th of October. And this involved a 14-year-old girl who was walking to a friend's house along Whitsbury Road. It was their intention to go to a birthday party from the friend's house. As she approached the junction with Whitsbury Road, she saw a dark blue or black Volvo motorcar, saloon motorcar, possibly a 144 or 244 model. She was aware of the fact that there was a female, a blonde-haired female in the passenger seat of the car, and there was a male driver. It looked as though they were having trouble finding an address.
You okay? What? Could you tell me where this road is, please?
No, sorry, I don't know.
Oh, well, thanks anyway.
The second incident took place, in fact, here in Blandford, and that was about midday last Thursday, the 11th of October, when, again, a 14-year-old girl was walking down Whitecliffe Mill Street, which is one of the main one-way streets in the centre of town, when she saw a blue Volvo car parked at the side of the road. A woman was standing on the pavement by the road. As the girl drew level with the car, she noticed a man sitting in the driving seat. After the girl passed the woman in the car, she became aware that the woman had started to follow her. The girl became worried and quickened her pace, and so did the woman. The girl was obviously frightened by this time and started to run. She ran round the corner and into her school. She didn't see what happened to the car, or indeed the woman. The two other cases, which I'm sure you know about now, were last Saturday afternoon. The first took place on the Bourne Valley estate in Poole. A man tried to entice a 5-year-old boy into his car, but the boy ran off. Possibly the most serious of all these incidents took place in Northmere Drive, which is only 200 yards away from the 5-year-old boy incident. Some 2 hours and 20 minutes later, two sisters, one's 4 and one's 3, were playing with their 4-year-old friend in a neighbour's garden. The mothers were both indoors. At the back of these houses, there's a path which runs along the back of the gardens, along the whole terrace. We think it must have been along this path that the woman must have approached the children.
If you've seen this woman, she looked scruffy, she had dyed blonde hair going dark at the roots, or if you've seen a couple matching a description in a dark Volvo, or know of any similar incidents, please call us straight away, 081 811 8181. Or you can call the incident room in Dorset, that's on 0258 452 101. 0258 is the code for Blandford, 452 101. Now, obviously, child abductions tend to make the headlines, but remember, they make big news not because they're common, but because they're mercifully rare. There's a delicate middle ground, therefore, between warning children to be cautious and frightening them about something they're most unlikely to encounter. So what can we do? Well, a charity called Kidscape aims to help parents, schools and children. Its advice has been adopted by the Home Office, and one of the things that Kidscape helps to highlight is that although we all tell children to beware of strangers, children have a fairly hazy view of what strangers really are.
Now we're going to talk a little bit about strangers. Can someone tell me what a stranger is? Yes.
A man who you don't know.
Okay, it's a man that you don't know.
They pull their hat down because they don't want nobody to see their face.
Okay.
And they can wear balaclavas so they can't see their face.
Right. How many people think strangers look strange or weird in some way? Okay. How many people think strangers can look like anyone? Okay. So we're not sure. Put your hands down for a minute. We're going to do a little role play about someone who tries to trick a child to get into a car. But what I want you to do is see if you can figure out what the child does wrong.
Richard, you got time?
6 o'clock.
Okay, see ya. Bye.
Hi, do you like my car?
Yeah.
It's brand new.
Looks good.
Do you like to come for a ride in my car?
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, is it because we're strangers?
Yeah.
So your mum told you not to talk to strangers?
Yes.
Oh, I know. I don't know if I want a strange kid in my car anyway, actually. Is your mum coming to pick you up today?
Nah.
Isn't she? My name's Ralph. What's your name?
Shireen.
That's a nice name, Shireen. Good. So that means we're not strangers anymore, doesn't it, Shireen?
Yeah.
Here, come and sit in my car.
Okay. Thank you very much. You want to go back and sit down? Is someone a stranger once you know their name?
Yes.
Oh, some people aren't quite sure. That man's name is Nick, so I've introduced you to him. Is he a stranger?
Yes.
Oh, some people are saying no, some people are saying yes. Just because you know someone's name, it doesn't mean that they're suddenly a friend of yours, does it?
No.
No. Okay, good. What did she do wrong? What things did she do wrong with this stranger? Let's see.
She told him her name.
She told him her name. Should you ever tell a stranger your name?
No.
How about telling him or her? Are strangers sometimes women?
Yes.
No, yes. Sometimes strangers are women. How about telling them your address, where you live?
No.
How about telling them your telephone number?
No.
Okay, good, good.
At its simplest, what can people teach children to do if they are approached by someone who they're worried about?
Yell and run away.
Simple as that.
Simple as that. Now we're going to do a shout, which comes from your tummy. Can everyone put your hand on your tummy? One hand in the air. And everybody on the count of 3 so that everyone in the school can hear you. 1, 2, 3. Give yourselves a big hand.
If you are going to teach your kids to scream, remember people often ignore screaming children, so you might also get them to shout, "That's not my mummy," or "It's not my daddy," if someone's troubling them. If you're a teacher or a parent and you want to find out more, this is how to contact Kidscape. These lines are open now. 071 488 0488. 071 488 0488. If you can't get through, you can write to them at Kidscape, World Trade Centre, London E1 9AA. But please enclose a stamped, addressed envelope. And there's a good deal more advice in this, the Crimewatch Guide to Home Security, available from bookshops. For children who've been threatened or need reassurance, Childline will always welcome you. Calls are free and you don't have to give your name. Here's the number, 0800 1111. Easy to remember, 0800 1111.
Well, now to Photo Call, pictures of people police are anxious to trace. Here to take us through them, Jackie Hames and David Hatcher.
First, my London colleagues need your help to find these 2 men who may be able to help with a murder inquiry. A flat here in Oldfield Grove, Rotherhithe, was the venue for an all-night party on Saturday, June the 9th. At about 5 a.m, a fight broke out and 27-year-old John Wright was fatally stabbed through the heart. Investigating officers believe that Derek Randall and Daniel Cliff may be able to help them. Following the fight, they left in a taxi. Derek Randall was dropped off at Greenwich Hospital, needing treatment for cuts. He may still have scars under his right eye. Daniel Cliff took the cab on to Woolwich, but hasn't been seen since. They're both 24, 5 foot 10 inches tall and of average build. If you've seen them or can help in any way, please call us now.
Next, Surrey detectives investigating a theft would like to speak to Doreen Perry. Until last April, she worked as a warden at a sheltered home for the elderly in Reigate. An 82-year-old disabled resident has had several cheques stolen, which has resulted in him losing his life savings. Doreen Perry is 60, 5'5" tall with a southern accent. She's an extremely large woman who has short grey hair and wears glasses. She also uses the names Jennifer Talbot and Jennifer Perry. Please ring us now if you know where she is.
My colleagues in London are seeking this man, known as David Ian Thompson. Have you been tempted by ads like these offering nappies and soap powder at knockdown prices but haven't yet received your order? If so, you could be the victim of what seems to be an elaborate deception, totalling nearly £50,000. Talisman Promotions Limited took up offices in Kilburn High Road in May and operated for 3 months before police were alerted. David Thompson is described as 28 to 34 years old, 6 foot to 6 foot 2 inches tall with a stout build. People say he had a strong Geordie accent and spoke nostalgically of the Hexham area. Everyone who remembers him says he was always smiling. Do you know who he is? Perhaps you've been unlucky enough to have had dealings with him. If so, call us now.
Finally, if you think you recognise this woman, you may help the flying squad in southwest London solve a series of armed robberies. She's fairly anonymous at this building society in Twickenham on the 4th of September and in the same outfit 10 days later in a similar establishment in Battersea. But she discarded her disguise to carry out this armed robbery at another building society, again in Twickenham. She's described as 35 to 45 years old, 5'4" to 5'5" inches tall, medium build with short collar-length hair. So if you think you know who she is or recognise any of our photocall faces, please call us now.
If you don't yet know the number by heart, there it is, 081 811 8181, 081 811 8181.
Our last reconstruction is the sad case of 23-year-old Gail Whitehouse. 8 weeks ago, on Thursday the 6th of September, she was found murdered. For 5 years, she'd been a familiar figure in the red light district of Wolverhampton, and she was last seen in that area on the evening of Monday the 3rd of September in Steelhouse Lane, which is where our film begins. By Thursday, 3 days after Gail's disappearance, friends of hers who worked on Steelhouse Lane decided to print and distribute their own missing person leaflets. On the day she went missing, Monday the 3rd of September, Gail had started work at about 6:30 after leaving her 2 young children with the babysitter.
All right, come on. Come on then. Come on, Johnny. Riley, we're going a couple of hours. You be a good little boy, and I'll see you in a couple of hours. Wait there for Mummy. Come on. All right. All right. I'll see you later.
She usually stood on the corner of Steelhouse Lane.
Hi, Carol. How you doing? Oh, how are you? Not too bad. It's a kid time. Driving me mad. I know, I know.
The Vice Squad regularly patrol the Steelhouse Lane area.
Our job mainly is to arrest the girls for loitering, prostitution. These mainly stem from complaints that we get from residents in the area, because as you can appreciate, some of the Vice area is a residential area. I've known Gail Whitehouse for about 5 years. Gail was very, very friendly. She was a nice girl, probably one of the nicer girls. We had no problems with her at all.
You gonna take me in then?
We do arrest the girls every night. They are fined approximately £150 per time, and that if they're arrested every week can soon mount up.
At about 8:30, Gail was seen getting into a car with 2 men.
Right.
She was back again within about half an hour. At about 9:20, a local security guard saw Gail.
I popped into the grocery shop for a packet of cigarettes, and I noticed a young girl that I know now as Gail Whitehouse standing on a corner talking to an Asian chap. When I was coming out with my cigarettes, I noticed she was walking across the road onto the hospital car park. There was a gold-coloured Cortina on the hospital car park with an Asian chap sitting on the bonnet. Gail and the other one walked towards the car. They spoke. The one on the bonnet got off and they all got into the car, and I just carried on with my normal round.
See you, Gail.
Then just before 10 o'clock, Gail's friend Diane was picked up by a client, leaving Gail alone on Steelhouse Lane. Then just after 10, 2 witnesses driving along Steelhouse Lane saw a girl like Gail apparently trying to get into a lorry parked round the corner on Jenner Street. And it was shortly after 10 when Diane came back to Steelhouse Lane, but Gail was nowhere to be seen. Three days later, just 100 yards away from that corner, Gail's body was found in some undergrowth. She'd been strangled. DCI Sid Law is in charge of this case, and first of all, it's important to find the driver of that lorry.
It is very important indeed. We do wish him to come forward as soon as possible. We don't know exactly what the vehicle is, whether it's a brand new vehicle, but it is silver or grey in colour.
In fact, that whole area is popular with lorry drivers as a place to park overnight, isn't it?
Yes, it is. There are several roads off Steelhouse Lane where lorry drivers do park overnight. Adelaide Street, which is adjacent to wasteland nearby, All Saints Road, which is off Steelhouse Lane, as is Eagle Street, and also Eager Tyre Services, which is in Steelhouse Lane itself. The lorry drivers use the forecourt there.
So if you were parked anywhere in that area on Monday the 3rd of September, please give us a call. 2 people you specifically need to trace are the men seen with the gold Ford Cortina just around 9 o'clock.
Yes, at 9:20 p.m. that gold Cortina was seen on the Royal Hospital car park. 2 Asian men were seen to get in it together with Gail. We do stress that that vehicle was returned to the red light district with Gail, and she did go about her business after then. But we do wish to speak to these men, as they may be able to help us.
Some witnesses have come forward. There must be a lot more who would have been around that night.
Yes, Steelhouse Lane is a very busy thoroughfare, and in fact, on Monday the 3rd of September, there was a speedway meeting nearby between Reading and Wolverhampton. Any persons who used Steelhouse Lane that night, we would ask them to come forward, as they may have seen Gail.
So a lot of people could have seen her that night. You've ruled out robbery as a motive.
Yes, but also we have found that one piece of property is missing. That is Gail's wristwatch. It is a Seconda wristwatch, a lady's wristwatch, but it has an unusual face. It's black in colour with Roman numerals, and also bears the moon and constellation in the background.
Very distinctive, could lead you to the killer. Of course, you need anyone who had any contact with Gail that night to contact you.
Yes, we would ask anyone to come forward who had contact with Gail, including her clients. We would treat them with the utmost discretion.
Right. You are absolutely guaranteed discretion by Mr. Law and his colleagues. You could prevent the same thing happening to somebody else, so please do call. The number here to the studio once again is 081 811 8181. The number direct to Wednesfield Police Station is 0902 649000. That's 0902, the code for Wolverhampton, 649000.
Last month, 30 items were recognised and claimed from our Aladdin's cave of what might be stolen property. If you suffered a burglary recently, perhaps you'll see something of yours tonight. From the Antiques Roadshow, here's Eric Knowles.
Thank you, Nick. Well, I feel a little bit like Gary Glitter this evening. Never mind Aladdin, I'm surrounded by glitter, including this Victorian silver dish. It's embossed and pierced with grapevine decoration. Slightly smaller example up here, very elaborate. It's on 4 little shell feet, a bit too flush for my taste. So, talking about flush, here's a selection of flash glassware, probably made in Czechoslovakia. And above that, we always manage to get something Chinese on this programme. Now, this rug is one of 18 that the police have recovered in recent days. And it depicts a dragon chasing a flaming pearl. Well, from China to Japan, well, figuratively speaking, I mean, this is a feast of relatively modern Crown Derby porcelain decorated with Japan patterns. We've got a pair of vases, one of a set of 4 candlesticks, and at the front there, 6 dessert forks in the vine pattern, which are sadly missing their knives. But not everything's modern. I mean, here's a lovely little sugar box, probably dates from around about 1885, and was possibly part of a set, well, certainly part of a set. Well, from a set to a solitaire. Now, feast your eyes on this diamond. There's my finger, and there's the solitaire. It is ginormous, but not to be outdone underneath it. Look at this, 3 of them. This has to be perhaps the most expensive knuckle duster I've ever seen. But ladies, underneath that it gets better. If a gentleman offers you a bracelet such as this Art Deco one, then he means serious business. It is fabulous. But there again, if you're a lady who's not easily fobbed off by such mere trinkets, what about this fob? It's for a watch, obviously, and it's engraved on the seal with the arms of what could be the Turnbull family. Now, every good fob deserves a good watch. And here's a delightful watch, very simple, made in France in about 1800. And the only concession to luxury are these tiny little diamond chips inset into the hands. Another watch that takes my eye is this one. It's gold, and it's actually engraved with a mistletoe design. Very festive. Talking of festive, 5 carriage clocks. One of them is actually engraved Christmas 1891 and was presented by the congregation of a church in Newnham. Now, I'm afraid that none of these items are for sale, and the chances of them ending up in your Christmas stocking are rather slim, unless, of course, you just happen to be the owner.
Here's the number, 0818 118181, or you can call the Poole Police Station direct. That's 0202 703 333. That's 0202, the code for Poole in Dorset, 703 333.
A word before we go about the calls that are coming in. We're getting a large volume of calls on the murder of Paul Stevens. One call in particular gave a sighting of Paul at 2 o'clock in the morning, which could be vital. Not surprisingly, we're getting a lot of calls on the child abduction couple, descriptions, sightings of them all over the country, and one particular name and address which the police are very interested in. There's been a good lead too on the shooting at the Leeds Carnival, and they're on the trail of Doreen Perry at the moment too. Thank you very much. Please do call if you have any information at all. Detectives here are going to be answering calls for the next 2 hours. The numbers for the investigating forces are on CFAX, if you have that. That's on page 618. And our progress report tonight will be at 5 past midnight.
If you can't stay up till then, and who could blame you? Let me let you into a secret. We always end by saying crime is rarer than people tend to think. Now, the fact is, this month, the police could identify only 3 serious cases throughout the whole country that we thought would really produce results from a Crimewatch reconstruction. So crimes like those we show really are quite rare. So don't have nightmares, do sleep well. Good night.
Good night.